I wasn't planning on a mid-basho video, but let's talk about Takerufuji. Takerufuji came into the Nagoya Basho on day 8 and picked up 2 wins, which effectively guarantees he'll stay in Juryo come September. Then he exited on day 10, citing a shoulder injury. It was, to say the least, very convenient. Is he actually injured? I mean, it probably does hurt. I imagine that if Izagahama was looking for any reason for him to exit, they could have just said his ankle wasn't holding up. They didn't need to point to something new, but it's also hard to imagine he'd have left after 2 days if he needed 3 or 4 wins to be safe. Unsurprisingly, a non-zero number of people think he's gaming the system. I agree, and you know what? Good for him. Wikipedia defines gaming the system as using the rules and procedures meant to protect a system to, instead, manipulate the system for a desired outcome. Yeah, I know, don't reference Wikipedia, but Merriam-Webster doesn't have an entry for this. The ostensible reason the JSA requires doctor's notes, like they're running a sports league for 5th graders, is to ensure as best as possible that guys don't dip out of bashos without an actual injury. They want guys either competing or not, you're in or you're out. Takerufuji was out with a known injury, came back, punked the 2 top-ranked guys in his division, supplied the association with a new doctor's note, and left again. So he used the ability to come in late to get the wins he needed and hold his spot in the division, and used the rules again to get himself back out without taking further damage, sidestepping the intent that once you're in, you stay in to the best of your ability. So, definitionally, he gamed the system. Now, let's assume he came in with the intention of getting his 2 wins, was open to staying in the basho if he felt really good, but was also ready to step out if it felt at all like he might hurt his ability to compete in September. He came in knowing he'd probably leave early. So, what exactly is the critique here? The obvious one is that if he was well enough to fight for 2 days, he should have expected to fight for the last 8. That's what sumo wrestlers are trained to do. If he didn't think he could make all 8, he should have stayed out. Alright, put yourself in his position. You have a job and you're part of a 2-week project with no days off, but you're incredibly sick. You got Ebola and like double COVID. There's no way you can show up every day, but no showing the project will cost you $14,000 or 13,000 euros or 11,000 pounds in lost wages. If you can crawl out of bed and put in 2 good days of work though, you'll get the full pay. Are you really not gonna do that? Your coworkers may have different opinions on the fact you get a full share for 2 days of work when they're there for 2 weeks, but when those thousands of currencies hit your bank account, are you going to care at all? Especially since your previous work is what earned you the right to only need 2 days of work to get that pay, rather than 3 or 5 or 8? It says something about Takerufuji that any of us can look at what he did and see it as being uncouth rather than risky. They're not Funko Pops where we can smash the dolls together because we want to see a fight. At the salaried level, balancing health with the ability to continue making a living is a concern for lots of guys, and that's usually discussed as a fair and reasonable thing for them to consider. But Takeru's pretty rare in that he can miss half the tournament, walk in, beat the top 2 guys in his division, one of whom was leading the yusho race when they fought, and we're like, yeah, obviously he did that, how dare he walk away? If you don't like that he bailed after 2 days, ask yourself this. If he lost to Onokatsu, then won the next 2, so he got his wins, but also showed he's not completely healthy and definitely vulnerable, would you be as against the decision as you are now? So yeah, Takerufuji worked outside the intent of the system, but the system gave him every reason to do it. Good for him. Anyway, how about that Yokozuna?